Mark Smith from Dallas, Texas, took a solo trip to Mexico where he stumbled upon a small, weak, homeless kitten. It was in poor condition, and though the local residents warned him against picking it up, Mark couldn't leave the poor creature behind. Feeling compassion for the kitten, he decided to take it with him back to the U.S., hoping to nurse it back to health. However, things quickly spiraled out of control. Just a couple of days after his return, Mark was startled by a loud knock on his door. Two police officers stood outside, demanding to know where the cat was. At first, Mark was confused. He had no idea why they were there, but as the officers entered his house, it became clear that his seemingly innocent act had led to trouble. The police weren't looking for just any cat, they were after an endangered species. Mark had no idea that the kitten he picked up in Mexico wasn't just a stray, but a rare Mexican lynx, which was illegal to possess. Mark had only wanted to help a stray animal, but his good intentions had inadvertently landed him in legal trouble. Mark was on vacation in a small village in Mexico when he found the kitten covered in dirt and clearly weak. It looked like an orphan. Mark initially thought about taking it to a shelter, but local residents aggressively shouted at him not to touch the kitten. Unable to understand their warnings because of the language barrier, he assumed they were just mocking him or that the locals had some other reason for wanting to keep the animal. Ignoring their warnings, Mark gently picked up the kitten, wrapped it in a sweater, and hurriedly left the village. As he drove toward a larger city in search of food and medical care for the kitten, he grew more attached to the small creature, forgetting about the negative reactions from the locals. Mark's only concern now was ensuring the kitten survived, so he decided to take it home with him to Dallas. When Mark crossed the U.S. border, he wasn't questioned much about the kitten. He told the border officers that he was traveling with his cat, and they didn't seem to pay much attention. Mark was relieved, thinking everything was fine, but the police would soon be knocking on his door for a different reason. Once home, Mark took the kitten to the vet for a checkup. He named the kitten Kitty. But as soon as they arrived, it became clear that Kitty wasn't the sweet, docile animal Mark thought she was. The kitten had become increasingly aggressive, hissing and scratching. The vet decided not to sedate her due to her weak condition, fearing that anesthesia could harm her. Instead, Mark was instructed to take Kitty home and let her gain strength before any further treatment. But Mark's efforts to care for the kitten didn't stop there. He hoped to give her the best life possible, even though he noticed her behavior was becoming more difficult. Mark couldn't understand why Kitty was acting so aggressively. The more he tried to care for her, the more she resisted. After several days of caring for Kitty, Mark was shocked when the police came knocking at his door again. This time they were more urgent. They quickly rushed inside without an explanation and began searching for the cat. Mark could hardly believe what was happening. The officers were looking for a monster, as they called it, and it didn't take long for them to find Kitty. Mark was stunned. How did they know about the kitten? The police had been tipped off by the veterinarian. It turns out, the vet had recognized the kitten as an endangered Mexican lynx. The vet had called the authorities, fearing that Mark had illegally acquired the animal, and wanted the police to handle the situation. Mark was bewildered when the police told him that the kitten wasn't just a stray but an endangered species. The officer explained that the vet had suspected the kitten wasn't a typical cat, but a lynx, and that it was illegal for Mark to have it. Mark had no idea that the animal he had lovingly cared for was anything other than a stray. In the end, the police decided not to press charges against Mark, especially after they confirmed that he wasn't aware of the animal's true identity. Kitty was taken to an animal rescue center where she would receive proper care and eventually be returned to Mexico. Mark was left with the knowledge that his good intentions had led to an unexpected, life-changing adventure. Although he had only wanted to help a poor creature in need, he learned a valuable lesson about the complexities of wildlife and the importance of being informed before acting.